this emphasis on narcissism, it really, to me, it kind of, it has us looking at people, and any little trait that we don't like in someone, the finger gets pointed, and this word narcissism is thrown out so easily, and it's quite ridiculous in my opinion, because narcissism stems from trauma, neglect, abandonment. They usually have witnessed all those traits from a very selfish parent, and they either become very highly empathetic, or they block off their emotions to stop themselves from feeling the pain and abandonment and neglect that was in their lives. So either end of that spectrum is still toxic. So, and later on in life, the pattern keeps going because the ego is a cover-up for all their fears. So it comes across as a very selfish, world centered around them mentality. And it is, because you think back to childhood, right? These are the years where we are looking to our elders, they are our role models, right? So all these people that you sit there and you go and you cast them out and you say that they're sick individuals, or, you know, demonize these people. They're wounded. They needed the right tools to learn what empathy is. They lacked seeing that. They didn't get that response at some stage in their life. And while I can see that now, make sense of it, doesn't mean I'm going to stay around and tolerate treatment, you know, from selfish people. Absolutely not. I am not saying that. But it takes away your victimization when you can see where they're flawed as well. Because if you, like for me, I went on the other end of the spectrum, highly empathetic, overstaying in situations where I would attract a lot of people that had narcissistic traits, yes, and it's still sitting in this overgiving, this pleasing the person that you think you love. You know, this is a very toxic dynamic. You're just repeating the cycle of everything you knew in the past, and this is what we do. It comes back to this place which I've talked about before. We like to sit in our comfort zone, and sometimes that comfort zone is stuck in a traumatic state of existing, because that cycle is familiar ground. It's familiar territory for you. And this is what people fail to realize a lot of the time. And I see them like, oh my God, I escaped this narcissistic relationship. And yes, I've been in that situation 100%. I have. I get it. And at the time, I saw the person as they were my nightmare. But now I don't even see it like that anymore. Now I can look and I can see the wounds, and I can understand exactly what happened for that person to end up in the state that they were at. And I have compassion. I truly do, because I picture everyone with a blank slate coming into this world and being tainted and being, you know, all this baggage being thrown on them by what they've had to take on from what tools their parents, and then their parents' parents, and so on. You cannot actually blame. The blame game, this is where, you know, you find a lot of peace, and where you can move on and truly find happiness and quality, get quality out of your life, is when you actually do have that compassion for other human beings and understand that they're a product of their environment. But again, we don't tolerate that kind of toxicity anymore. Once we see it, once we make sense of it, we need to step differently so we don't pass on the patterns to future generations. Especially as a parent myself, I will be so aware of the way I step, because I know my people, my little ones, the ones that came through me, they've taken in everything that they've witnessed from me, and what I allow into my world, and, you know, how I handle myself in situations. They've been watching me, how I apply myself into anything and everything, how I, you know, what I'll put up with, and what. So this will be the dynamic for them too, to base their whole futures upon. It is so crucial that we see things, at least if we're surrounded by an unhealthy dynamic playing out in front of us, this is more reason why we need to actually become so consciously aware of our surroundings, of, you know, our relationship the energy flow that's happening between ourselves and other people, our encounters. We've got to be so aware of it so we can make healthy choices for ourselves. Otherwise, you know, you sit there living in fear and again casting people out, placing judgment on them, and you hold on to bitterness, and it completely corrupts your future. It corrupts your now moment too. You cannot reach for a better place if you can attach to people with this very limiting perception and not see the bigger picture of it all. It keeps you stuck in this illusion. And this is the whole thing why, you know, I keep talking about things, maybe they're a little bit similar topics, but I'm trying to find the way to break it down, because it's actually, I know I went through it for years where it was very hard for me to get to the depth of what it really meant to see the bigger picture. And sometimes you need to hear things over and over again in different little ways, and then one day it just clicks, right? And you all of a sudden, it's like you get that new set of eyes, and you can start to experience life that bit differently, and everything just heightens from there. And no more hurt, no more pain, there's no more baggage, everything just gets released, and you start walking differently through your world. So I think this is why, you know, I keep wanting to address all these things over and over again, because it is so freeing, and it is something that, you know, we don't need to look at each other as enemies ever. We can understand each other, and we can still choose to close doors on those things that actually aren't for us anymore, but with peace inside us. That's the difference. That's the key difference here. A lot of the time we don't make peace with situations that play out for us in a negative way, and therefore we may step out of it. But if you don't make peace with the situation, you end up inviting the same pattern back into your world over and over again.